and then Meena ji will do
Sure.
Okay, all right.
O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other.
Thank you, Ravi. Meena ji?
Yeah. Om Bhurvaswaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvaswaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Bhurvaswaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.
You have to unmute yourself, Binaji.
Oh, you couldn't hear.
Thank you.
No, you are muted again. Yeah.
Again?
Now,
No,
now you are, yes.
All right. Thank you, Meena. Can I request everybody to mute themselves, please? We can start now.
Yeah, Meenaji, please mute yourself. Meena Nirula, right, fine. Yeah.
Krishnaphani ji will chant it because I think I'm not seeing Suman here. So, Krishnaphani ji, we can start with 22.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Chapter 9, verse number 22. It's a very, very important verse and a very famous verse at that. It says, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Yejanah Paryupasate Yesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. You can comment now.
Aurobindo's commentary is, to those men who entirely worship me, having nothing else in their mind and thought, to them who are constantly in yoga, I bring their yogakshema, all their getting and having. The explanation, to see nothing but the divine, to be at every moment in union with him, to love him in all creatures and have the delight of him in all things is the whole condition of his spiritual existence. His God vision does not divorce him from life, nor does he miss anything of the fullness of life. For God Himself becomes the spontaneous bringer to him of every good and of all his inner and outer getting and having. Yogakshema, Vaha, Vaham Yaham. Vaham Yaham.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. We will take it. See, this is the last quarter of this verse. Yogakshemam Vahamyaham is the logo of the Life Insurance Corporation. It's a very famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita. As Aurobindo says very clearly to see nothing but the divine, to be at every moment in union with him. These are the two most important qualifications. Ananyas chintayantaha, thinking about him and nothing else. He is constantly there in one's consciousness. Nothing else is there. And he is integrated with him, to be at every moment in union with him. That is the Nityayukta, Nityabhiyuktanam. See, unless these two qualifications or conditions, if one may call them as, are met, there is no possibility of the Supreme Godhead taking care of everything. And very beautifully, Aurobindo gives two terms. He says, one who gives it and retains it, to see nothing but the divine. And he says his Godhead, the God vision does not divorce him from life, nor does he miss anything of the fullness of life. For God himself becomes the spontaneous bringer to him of every good and of all his inner and outer getting and having. Getting it and having it. Getting it is one thing, retaining it is another thing. Both these things, whether it is inner or outer, whether it is from a worldly point of view or from a spiritual point of view, both the things are taken care of by him. That is the promise he makes. When he says, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham, I will take care of all your requirements and I'll also see your welfare and that you retain what you get. That is also important. These are very, very important aspects. Ms. Sadhvi Kapoor, can you please put on yourself on mute? Can you please mute yourself? Yeah, thank you. Now, these two terms are very beautifully defined by Adi Shankara in his commentary, Yoga and Kshema. He says, Apraptasya prapanam yogaha. Yoga is giving you what you don't have or what you desire, but you don't have it as of now. So getting what you desire is yoga. That's why generally in the general parlance of the time of the term yoga, especially in astrology and all, they will say that somebody has vivaha yoga or dhana yoga. The term yoga here means not the regular yoga which he is talking about. Here it means getting what you don't have. That means you are not married, but I can see from your horoscope that there is a possibility of you are getting married soon. You don't have wealth, but the horoscope shows that you are likely to get wealth. That is yoga. Apraptasya prapanam. Apraptasya means that which you haven't got it. Getting that is yoga. And what is kshema? Tad rakshanam. Protecting or taking care of what you have is kshema. Kshema means welfare. Welfare is taking care of what you have, preserving what you have, so that you continue to enjoy that. So this is yoga kshema. And he says, Vahamyam, I will take care of it. I will bear it. I will bear the responsibility of giving you what you don't have and also protecting whatever you have or whatever you have got. So this again, Aurobindo very beautifully says both inner and outer. This is what is to be understood. Of all is inner and outer getting and having. Inner and outer getting and having. What is inner? That which you haven't got. Outer is what you have. That which you have got. So this is yoga kshema. And he says, of all is inner and outer getting and having. It is not simply material. It is not, he is not talking simply from the material point of view. From a spiritual point of view also, giving you what you deserve. In fact, the beauty of it is that all life provides one with the best opportunities, best material, best facilities, and best circumstances and situations in life for one's own spiritual progress. But from a worldly point of view, it may be very inconvenient. Worldly point of view, what is provided may appear to be very, very inconvenient and unwanted and something which is to be avoided or something which is to be shunned. But the whole scheme of evolution is devised in such a way that the best possible opportunity is given in one's own life for one's own spiritual progress. This is what is to be understood very clearly. Otherwise, what happens is we always think only in terms of personal comfort, personal safety, personal security of one's own material things, including the body. The body is, after all, material. And because this is there, we have so many other attachments. This body is, along with its emotions and thoughts, is attached to people, attached to things, attached to ideas, attached to its own desires. So, from a world point of view, it may be inconvenient if you get something or lose something. But remember that the law of nature or the whole scheme of evolution is meant for spiritual progress, not for material progress at all. Material progress is an ongoing process and a byproduct of the system. It's a byproduct of the system. Nobody denies the importance of the material world. Nobody denies the necessity for having material things. Nobody denies the uh, need for all these facilities. But if one doesn't understand the purpose of life, if one doesn't understand one's own purpose of life, then all these things become futile at one point of the time or other. For example, what happens if a person is ill? If a person is seriously ill, does anything material help him? Does his property, his assets, his relations, his friends, do any of these things provide you with any comfort or support? No. So at that point of time, your health becomes the most important factor for us. For us, our health becomes the most important. If somebody wants to seek something at that time, he would like to be healthy again. That becomes the desire. Strong desire for health. So you see the problem now. Do you see the issue now? See, what happens in all these cases is that we are working towards something which we don't have, and we want to retain it also. Something that comes and goes. But the purpose of life has to be clearly understood. That's why Aurobindo very beautifully says inner and outer both. He is the bringer and giver of both inner and for getting it and for having it. So now it's a matter of choice for us. What do we want? What is it that we desire? Do we desire something which is passing? Do we desire something which is impermanent and ephemeral and not in our control? And which requires lot of effort on our part to retain it? All of us may in some form or the other desire wealth. Can we handle it? It becomes a big nuisance. Somebody, suppose tomorrow gives 100 crores to you, it becomes a nuisance to you. You will not have a sleep. You will not know what to do. And you will start calculating what is the interest if I put it in a bank. Then if I put it in a bank, what about the income tax? What about somebody else? What about something else happening? Or you invest it somewhere, there is a possibility of gain or loss. There's a possibility of somebody cheating you. So you see, the problem is not getting it. The welfare of that person has to be taken care of, the kshema part of it, the retaining part of it. So it is important to desire those which are easy for us to handle in one way. And secondly, easy to retain also. Easy to retain. Then now look at it from that point of view. Health. Getting good health or restoring one's. But does it ensure that you are going to continue to be healthy? If our actions are not well, if the intake of food, if the what we eat, what we see, what we do is not correct, then again there is the possibility of losing it and then becoming ill again. Similarly, if one may say, I want peace of mind, is it something static? Is it something like an object that you get it? Because it is something dynamic. It depends on the kind of thoughts and emotions you entertain. So therefore, it is important to constantly dwell upon him. Ananyas chintayantaha. In order to retain, say, peace of mind, it is important to dwell upon him, that supreme intelligence, that ultimate reality, what we call as God. So that God vision has to be retained to the exclusion of everything else. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate. And that's the second condition. We come to the same condition. And constant, eternally in union with him. Nityabhiyuktanam. Abhiyukta means greatly bonded to him. Yukta is again from the term yoga. Integrated. That's the reason why Aurobindo uses these two terms. To see nothing but the divine. To be at every moment in union with him. And he adds another dimension. To love him in all creatures and have the delight of him in all things in the whole condition of his spiritual existence. You can't say that I love God, but I hate humanity. You can't say that I have a lot of love for God, but I abuse all the creatures of this world. That means you don't see. Your perception is defective. His God vision does not divorce him from life, nor does he miss anything of the fullness of life. Generally, we understand this also wrongly, thinking that why is it that you don't enjoy this, you don't enjoy that? No, the logic is very simple. If you have something which gives you greater joy, you don't mind easily sacrificing the lesser joys, isn't it? Lesser enjoyments of life. I had this problem for a long time when I was working. When I was in my 20s and 30s, see, I was not indulging in any of the things which are normally considered to be enjoyment. Normally considered to be enjoyment. You don't drink, you don't eat, you don't smoke, you don't go here, you don't go there, you don't do this, you don't do that. What kind of life are you enjoying? This was the refrain. This was what frequently my friends used to say. And I had good friends who used to indulge in all these things. They were good people. They were nice people. Very, very considerate. All other things are there, but their conception of enjoyment was this from a worldly point of view. Then I used to tell them that I have a greater thing to enjoy, in the presence of which all these things are very minor and very small issues. So that is the fullness of life. It doesn't mean that you are missing out something. Obviously, if something is giving you greater joy, what do? You will go towards it. You will seek that joy. So the fullness of life is not, you don't miss it actually. You're not actually missing it. And that's what he says, his God vision does not divorce him from life. He will live a life to its fullness. Nor does he miss anything of the fullness of life. It's a question of, as I said, a choice. What do you choose? Obviously, what gives you delight? What gives you more delight? So that logic applies to your orientation towards something spiritual. So this is the idea that is, in this particular shloka, we find that the whole idea is that one needs to be in a state of being to the exclusion of everything. We are continuously carrying that state of consciousness of his presence, and also in union with him. Nityabhiyuktanam. Only then he will take care of it. Whether we are talking about from a worldly point of view or a spiritual point of view also, it is only when these two conditions are met, even the worldly things occur. They happen. Even if I want something worldly, I should have that constant, presence, his presence in my consciousness, and I should be. So that's why the biblical statement, not my will, but thy will be done. I don't have a will of my own, because I know from my limited consciousness, limited experience, limited background, my choice will always be the wrong choice. My choice will be the wrong choice. So therefore, it is thy will that should prevail. Your will, please give me, your will is more important for me, because you know what is right for me. From my perspective, see, this is something which is quite common. You can be your own life. Most of the points in our life where we had to make a choice, most of us might have made the wrong choice. Not necessarily in everything, but mostly what happens is something enamors you, something, distracts you and takes you away from the purpose of life. So given a choice, we are bound to make the wrong choices. So therefore, the question of choice should not arise to us, because when his presence is always there in me, in my consciousness, and I am integrated with that consciousness of his presence, then the question of error, the question of making a mistake, the question of making a wrong choice doesn't arise. So he is bound to take care of your yoga and kshema. Whatever is the best for you, he will provide that circumstance, that situation. And whatever is going to give the best spiritual result, he is going to protect that for you. This is the deeper aspect one has to recognize. So therefore, the definition is very, very clear. The definition is very, very clear. Chapter 7 also. He says that these devotees seek prosperity and security by means of their own efforts also, but those who do not see themselves as different from the Lord do not seek them for themselves. They cherish no selfish cravings either in life or death. They have sought refuge in the Lord only, so the Lord himself brings them both prosperity and security. So when the Lord says that such a person is dear to me, the idea behind this is that I deem the knower of the self to be my. He says the knower of the self is not different from me. Jnani twatmaiva me matam, he says. A jnani, a knower of the self, is no different from me. And he is dear to me. Such a jnani is dear to me. If you remember, in the 7th chapter, he talks about 4 types of persons who approach me. He talks about 4 types of persons who approach me, he says. And they are artaha, jignasuhu, artharthi, and jnani. In the 7th chapter, this is 7:16, he says there are 4 kinds of men that resort to me. Those who are afflicted, artaha. Artha is one who is in trouble, who is afflicted, who is in a problem. His immediate requirement is that he should come out of his affliction. As I have given the idea of somebody who is ill, his immediate concern is to become well. So, an approach him, who is one kind of person. And Jignasu is one who is eager to know. The one who is eager to know, the knowledge seeker. He wants to know something about me. So such a person is a jignasu, jnatumicha jignasa. Then artharthi, one who seeks material benefit. He has something, but he is lacking in something else, and he wants that to be fulfilled. Artharthi. Artha means wealth, material prosperity in some form. And the last one is the jnani. Last one is the one who knows me, the knower of the self, or who knows me. He is a jnani. So the Lord himself says that I consider the jnani to be no different from me, and he is somebody who is dear to me. So the importance of not choosing from our limited perspective and allowing that supreme to us and accepting whatever comes in that process is the sine qua non of jnani. He is a true jnani. So that is the implication of this verse. And see, this is a very, very important, as I said in the beginning, one of the most important verses of the Bhagavad Gita is this. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. No, you have to qualify to be eligible for his taking care of everything for you, whether material or non-material, whether spiritual or mundane or whatever it is. It has to be on the fulfillment of the conditions stipulated. We are all fond of removing the conditions and assuming that it is his job to take care. No. Your effort is anyway required. What is the effort required on your part? On constantly dwelling upon him and also being integrated with him in union with his consciousness. Then only he will take care. Otherwise, there is no question of his taking care because you are not allowing him to enter at all. If you don't allow him to enter, how will he take care of you? We used to have that a lady was there who used to tell us this Scottish joke about a Scotsman daily, praying to God that he should get a £1 million lottery. He goes on praying every day for weeks and months. He has been doing this. Then God is fed up with this fellow. God suddenly appears before him and says, "My dear sir, first of all, buy a ticket. I can't do that for you. You have to buy the lottery ticket. Then you ask for, getting that $1 million, £1 million lottery. So he will take care of your welfare provided you meet the conditions that are required. Without meeting those conditions, it's not possible even for God to help anybody. Therefore, the saying that God helps only those who help themselves. I have to help myself in the sense I should prepare myself to receive it. If I don't prepare myself to receive that grace, how will I receive it in the first place? These two conditions have to be remembered from another important point of view. See, constantly dwelling upon him and being integrated with him leads to purification in all respects. In all respects, it leads to purification. That is the most important aspect one has to recognize. Now, very beautifully, Radha Krishnan gives in the footnote an extract from a literary history of the Arabs by R.A. Nicholson. I'll read this. This is so wonderful, The story goes like this. Rabia was once asked, "Do you love God Almighty?" "Yes." "Do you hate the devil?" The answer to that, she says, "My love of God," she replied, "leaves me no leisure to hate the devil. I saw the prophet in a dream. He said, 'O Rabia, do you love me?' I said, 'O apostle of God, who does not love thee?' But love of God hath so absorbed me that neither love nor hate of any other thing remains in my heart." You see the parallel drawn from Sufi literature. And another important thing to be remembered is this is a lady Sufi. They were very great ladies, women who were into this tradition of Sufism and who had realized that this is the meaning of Ananyas Chintayantaha. My love of God absorbs me so much that neither love nor hate of any is in my heart. What happens with this? You are totally purified, completely purified. And then with that pure heart, you need not do anything. The grace will automatically descend. The grace will automatically descend. So, and as Aurobindo says, you can't say that I love God, but I don't love his creation or the creatures. It goes with that. It goes with that love of God that you love everything else. There is another beautiful story of from the Sufi tradition of another great lady Sufi called Fatima. You know, she was living in an isolated place in a jungle, and all the animals used to flock her ashram and then or her place of dwelling, and they used to very comfortably roam around her. It so happens that another Sufi traveling from a long distance comes to meet her. The moment this Sufi enters, all these animals run away. Then he is surprised. In fact, I think his ego was also hurt. Then he asks this lady Fatima and says, how is it that they are running away from me and they are flocking when you are there? Then she very beautifully says, when you eat them, do you think that they will come and stay near you? They will obviously run away from you. So vegetarianism or not consuming these things is not to be taken as a culture or as a matter of what we call as something which is ordinary in life. The moment you realize that all living creatures are representatives of that God, that great God vision, then automatically what happens? You refrain from doing that. That's a process of purification. That is how one gets purified in the process of constantly dwelling upon him and being integrated with his consciousness, with his God vision. These are the two conditions that are stipulated in this shloka. Once we meet them, you need not have any doubt that he will take care of what is required for us, and he will also protect us in every respect from his perspective, which is the best possible way for our own spiritual evolution. This is the meaning of this verse. Okay. Now, shall we go to the next verse?
So you can read the chat.
Yes, sir. 1 minute, sir. 1 minute. Let me read it. No, one is japa, repeating a mantra is eternally resting in God. Yeah, see, that's one way of doing it. And it's only, I would say, a beginning of it. It's only japa is only a beginning of it. Japa is physically doing it is one thing. Mentally doing is it another thing. And constantly retaining in the background that uh, sense of being, the presence of that Godhead is something totally different. Japa is only a starting point in some ways. There is a beautiful verse by, I think, Kabir Das, which says, Mala pherat jug bhaye mitana man ka pher. You've been rotating these beads for centuries. But the wandering of your mind has not stopped. Mala pherat jug bhaye mitana man ka pher. Karka man ka dari de man ka pher, he says. To throw away this japa mala you have in your hand. That's called a manka. He is playing on the word manka also. Manka means this beads. He says karka manka. Karka manka means the beads in your hand. Throw the karka manka dari de manka pher. Manka means of the mind. And manka, the second manka means the beads. The beads of your mind, rotate them. So see, the japa as a starting point is good, but it should lead to stopping of this chattering of the mind, the wandering of the mind, and the distractions of the mind through the senses. If that is possible, then obviously it leads to this state of ananyas chintayantaha, which we are talking about. Is this the shloka that tells us that we retain spiritual growth? See, retaining the spiritual growth is a natural process that happens without any interference of anything else, because it's like gravitation. It's like the law of gravitation, because spiritual growth is something which is connected to the Jivatma. What is retained in the Jivatma is something which is pure and which is necessary for the spiritual growth. So any action taken during our lifetime which helps in the spiritual growth will never be lost. That which will never be lost. That will be anyway taken care of. But in order to have further spiritual growth, in order to hasten the spiritual growth, in order to speeden the spiritual growth, these two conditions are important. In this life, as the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad very beautifully says, that he who dies without realizing this truth is somebody who has wasted his entire life. Yova etadaksharam gargya viditva praiti sa krupanaha. He calls a person who doesn't know this akshara, this immortal, imperishable, supreme intelligence. One who dies without knowing this is a krupana. Krupana is a wretched person, a miserable person. Such a person, he calls him as a krupana. However much wealth he may have, however much prosperity he might have enjoyed in this world, but without knowing the truth, if one passes away, he is a krupanaha. And then he doesn't stop there. He says, Atha yova gargi aksharam viditva praiti sa brahmanaha. He says he is a knower of Brahman who knows this akshara and then passes away. And he uses the term brahmana. The word brahmana means one who knows the presence of Brahman, who realizes Brahman is a brahmana, not the caste and community of a person. That's a very gross and immature level of looking at it. Atha yovagar etadaksharam viditva praiti sak brahmanaha, he says. Such a person is a brahmana. So that is the point to be remembered. Otherwise, what happens is nothing of essence is lost from a spiritual point of view. Nothing of any spiritual essence is ever lost in this world. It is retained and it is going to help you from incarnation after incarnation. It's going to definitely help you from that point of view. Okay, sir? That's okay, sir. Janakiramji?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Shall we go to the next verse?
Yes.
येऽप्यन्यदेवता भक्ता यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेऽपि मामेव कौन्तेय यजन्त्यविधिपूर्वकम्. Please read the commentary.
Even those devotees who, full of faith, sacrifice with consecration unto other godheads, they too, O Kaunteya, sacrifice to me, though not according to the true law.
Yes. Yeah.
The Gita does not deny the validity even of the Vedic sacrificial works. It admits that. It admits that by these means one may get enjoyment here and paradise too. It is I myself, says the divine teacher, who accepts sacrifices and to whom they are offered. I who give these gifts in the form of the God, since so mentioned to approach me. But this is not the true role, nor is it the enjoyment of paradise, the liberation and fulfillment which man should seek.
Yeah. See, he brings out the difference between Ananyas Chintayantaha and directly approaching him and approaching him through various other forms. I think some of the participants might have heard Ishwaranji also, where he talks about the same idea, karma yoga, or the action coming before the philosophy part of it. First, you need to do the action part of it. Here, what happens is, what he is saying is, what Sri Krishna is saying is that there are those who propitiate and pray and worship other gods. And Aurobindo calls them as partial godheads. Partial godheads other than the integral divinity. The integral divinity is that supreme intelligence or ultimate reality, what Sri Krishna represents. But there are others who do it, and they do it with lot of faith. Shraddhayanvitaha. It's not that they lack faith, or they lack seriousness. They propitiate, they worship, they perform yajnas, other gods with lot of faith. Even that comes to me because I am present in everything. I am present in everything. That also comes to me only. They are also as though they are worshipping me, but there is a catch here. He puts it that yajantya avidhipurvakam. They do not understand that law. They are not worshipping according to the vidhi, according to what is prescribed. There are two meanings to this. See, the one meaning is that not following the Vedic injunction. Avidhipurvakam means not following the Vedic injunction. Now, the other aspect of it is that they have not yet realized what is the true law in operation in the whole scheme of evolution. The Gita takes its direct examples from the old Vedic religion on its exoteric side as it had then developed. It describes this outward worship as a sacrifice to other godheads, Anya Devataha, to the godhead, to the gods, or to the divinized ancestors, or to elemental powers and spirits, Devan, Pitrun, Bhutani. Further, there is this reference. Men consecrate their life and work ordinarily to partial powers or aspects of the divine existence as they see or conceive them, mostly powers and aspects that ensoul to them they things prominent in nature and man, or else reflect to them their own humanity in a divine exceeding symbol. If they do this with faith, then their faith is justified. For the divine accepts whatever symbol, form, or conception of himself is present to the mind of the worshipper. This is again, he quotes 721 also. Verse 21 of chapter 7 is quoted by Aurobindo, where he says, whoever worships in whomsoever, whichever form, ultimately it comes to me. Yam yam tanum shraddhaya archati. So whoever does, whomsoever he is worshipping, it still comes to me because they are representatives of that symbol. I am the representative of these various symbols. See, here what is happening is, how I'll read further about what Aurobindo tries to explain in the essays on the Gita. However small or low the form of the worship, however limited the idea of the Godhead, however restricted the giving, the faith, the effort to get behind the veil of one's own ego worship and limitation by material nature, it yet forms a thread of connection between the soul of man and the all soul, and there is a response. See, still we cannot find fault with these people who worship all kinds of gods, because however restricted, however limited, however constricted the whole thing may be, they are still forming a connecting thread is being formed to that ultimate. Progressively they will realize it. As veil after veil is removed, you will come closer and closer. Till such time you will be indulging in praying, worshipping, or performing rituals for lesser gods. All the Dikpalakas are worshipped by us. Indra, Agni, Varuna, Vayu. All these are also divinities only. We worship them because they are of immediate concern to us. Today we need to worship Vayu because he has to purify the air. It is contaminated. We don't know how the virus is spreading. And it is getting accentuated by rains. So you see, the propitiating these gods, there's nothing wrong in it because ultimately Sri Krishna says they'll all come to me. But what is happening is some of these things are not done by truly understanding the spiritual law. But still, as Aurobindo says, you are forming a connecting thread. You're forming a connecting thread, and that is linked to the ultimate. So that is the essential aspect of what we are actually now talking about. Anya Devataha, this is an extension of the same idea that is given there. Why do they worship ignorantly is a question which is answered by Adi Shankara. He says, because of the next verse, 24 answers why they worship. Because however foolishly they may be worshipping, I indeed am the enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Finally, it is me who is doing it, but they do not recognize me in truth. That's what I said. Because they natumam abhijananti tatvena ataschyavanti te. Therefore, they lapse. Therefore, they fall. Because they do not understand this fact that I am in everything. They do not recognize me in truth. That is the reason why, out of ignorance, they do it. And that is the meaning of avidhi purvakam. Not doing according to the law, as I said, has both these meanings. Not performing the yajna or not performing the rituals according to the Vedas is one superficial meaning. The deeper meaning is not realizing that I am the ultimate and thinking that Indra is ultimate or Varuna is ultimate or Yama is ultimate or Vayu is. So whomsoever you are praying or worshipping. And we have this tradition also. See, if we go to somebody for some favor, we would like to extol him to the maximum extent possible, saying you are the only person, you are the best, and nobody else is behind you and all that. Because that's only flattery. In a way, you go and flatter them so that they perform whatever you want, they give you whatever. So Indra is ultimate, Yama is ultimate, Vayu is ultimate. At each one's level, like in a government office. In a government office, it's not sufficient if you know the top man. The people down below can put so many hurdles that the top man cannot take any decision in your favor. Even if he wants to help you, he can't do it. Starting from a peon, we had a very typical example. If we have 2 minutes of time, I'll narrate a beautiful story. That is actually factual story. This happened in a place where I was working in Warangal. It's a Naxalite-prone area, and a lot of disturbances are there, and a lot of jungles are also there. So it's usual for people to keep on applying for gun licenses. So they applied. One fellow applied for a gun license, and first day he approached the collector's office, and he met the superintendent there. The superintendent very politely explained everything and said, "You need to pay me so much. You will get a gun license." This fellow's ego was hurt because he knew the collector. So he thought that why should I approach this fellow? I can directly approach him. Then he threatened him also. Do you think you fellow, you are going to ask money and all this from me, and I can't get it done. I know the collector. He said, sir, please go ahead, ask the collector. He went to the collector. The collector, because being his friend, called the superintendent and said, he's a good friend of mine. Why don't you help him to get a gun license? This fellow knew what the whole transaction is likely to be. So he carried a file with him and showed him a government order saying that the collector has no powers to give the gun license because of all these restrictions. So the collector, he doesn't know the intricacies of the whole thing, to depend on these people. So he went, and when he showed him to that government order, he said to his friend, "I'm so sorry. I really want to help you, but the rules are rules and I can't help." This fellow was totally flabbergasted because the same fellow outside, he told him that you pay so much, I'll get you. Now in front of the collector, he's saying that the rules don't permit it. But he could not say that this fellow has asked for money. So ultimately, he came out and said, "What the hell are you talking? You asked for money and then you are now saying like this, it can't be done." Then the superintendent said, "Even now I am saying the same thing. You pay me the money, you will get the license." So he had ultimately paid him the money. After a week or 10 days, this fellow took another GO to the collector and said, "Sir, I was deeply troubled. For the past 1 week, I was so much disturbed because you wanted to help your friend and you couldn't do it. So with lot of difficulty, I searched and found if there can be any loophole in it where we can exploit it, and or we can have some facility where you are given permission. So I found that GO also, sir. Under this, you can give it to him now." So the collector was also very happy. See, at least a friend of mine who has approached me, I couldn't help him now. He's this fellow. So this superintendent was praised for that also. So the the implication of this is you have to propitiate everybody starting from the peon to the collector, and you cannot ignore anybody. Because the peon is vested with the responsibility of stamping the date of receipt and date of dispatch. If you create a problem for him, if you don't give him his 20 rupees or 50 rupees or 100 rupees, he'll not put the stamp and he'll keep it aside. So if you are talking from a worldly point of view, this process becomes inevitable. You have to go through this process of lesser gods, because you are asking for something mundane. But if you are asking truly for something spiritual, and as Aurobindo says, and Adi Shankara also says that they have nothing personal in that, nothing selfish in that. They don't ask for anything selfish, and therefore their desires are fulfilled. If you're asking for a selfish desire, then the ultimate reality also says, okay, this department belongs to so and so, you go to it. That's how it operates. So those who do not see themselves as different from the Lord do not seek them for themselves. They cherish no selfish cravings either in life or death. Only in such cases that the ultimate reality, that supreme intelligence, operates through us. Otherwise, you have to propitiate the lesser gods. You have to propitiate the lesser gods. Then only you will be able to get through this process. But finally, even in such cases, it comes to me only. Okay? Then there is a question. Ganesh Chaturthi is nearing. People want and worship a god to whom they can easily relate and identify. Yeah, obviously. This is something which is very, very important. Very important, and where he becomes important for us, because see, there are 3 or 4 aspects to it. Just give me one minute's time. I just want to say something about this Ganesh Chaturthi. I have noted a reference which I want to explain here. When we have raised a very important thing about Ganesh Chaturthi. This is only a few days ahead. See, there are 4 aspects related to Ganesha. See, it is Ruddhi, Vriddhi, Siddhi, and Buddhi. Ganesha, the symbolism of Vinayaka or Vigneshwara or Ganesha has to be understood from these four aspects. Ruddhi is prosperity. Vruddhi is progress. Siddhi is attainment. And Buddhi is a discrimination or wisdom. The first two are worldly. Ruddhi and Vruddhi are worldly from the mundane point of view. Whereas Siddhi and Buddhi are spiritual. So, what is it that you are seeking becomes important. You have to be very clear in your mind as to what you are seeking from Ganesha, from Vigneswara. Because he is both Vigna Karta and Vigna Harta. He can cause obstacles and he can remove obstacles also. If you cross his path in the wrong way, he will create hurdles in your path. If you act in accordance with his true nature, he will remove all obstacles. So he is both Vigna and Vigna Harta. That is what we have to remember. So see, the lesser gods does not mean something inferior or something which should not be done. It is important because they open the channels for the higher forces. Open the channels for the higher forces. So are you seeking Ruddhi and Vruddhi, or are you seeking Siddhi and Buddhi? He is called as Siddhi Vinayaka. He is also considered to be the Godhead or the principle or the source of energy for wisdom. So this is what is important from our point of view. So this symbolism, if you understand, then it depends on what you are seeking. Are you seeking worldly this thing, or are you seeking something beyond this world? Something that is non-material in nature. Something that does not necessarily come to you in the form you want, but comes to you in the form in which things are important. See, you have to be, as Annie Besant says in one of her saying, that one needs to be an intelligent cooperator in the unfoldment of the divine plan. That is our purpose also. We have to purify ourselves to an extent that we become intelligent cooperators in the unfoldment of the divine plan. That is the reason why we have to go through this process. But we are stuck with the world, are stuck in the world, then we are constraining ourselves and restricting ourselves in so many ways that we are able to get out of it. And even as I said, at that point of time, God also cannot help us. God will not be able to, because you are stuck there. And he will give you what you want. But after some time, it doesn't suit you. You want something more. You want something else. And there is no end to these kind of cravings from the worldly point of view. This is the symbolism which we should understand from the symbolism of Ganesha. You can easily relate and identify yourself, yes, because he is amenable. He is amenable to you, amenable to your prayers, amenable to your approach, and in a limited way. See, based on what you carry. There is a saying, Gagar mein Sagar. See, If I carry a small cup, I'll only get that much of it. If I carry a bigger vessel, I'll get a bigger quantity of what I want. If I carry a tanker, if I carry a lorry load of something, a lorry along with me, I'll get equivalent to that. So it is my limitation that limits everything. The limitation is in me. I do not have the wherewithal to actually seek His grace. Even if He grants it to me, it will overflow and spill. It will not be retained with me because my cup is so small. That's the beauty of it. Okay, sir. Yeah. Any further questions? We are already, I think, 1 hour 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Been 1 hour 15 minutes. Any further questions or points for discussion? We can discuss, or we can close this session.
Yeah, we can. Krishnaphani.
Any of the participants? Yes, please tell me, Bina ji.
No, I was saying if there's no questions, then we can just next week we can continue. We'll do
Oh
20.
yes.
We'll do 24 and 25.
23, 24, 23 also we did, isn't it?
We've done 23.
23, 24, 25, we can do it. Yeah.
Okay, fine. All right.
Yeah. I think there are 34 verses in this chapter.
Okay.
We can do more also depending on the available time.
So I'll write.
23, 24, 20, 24, 25, 26 also we can. 26 is a very important one again.
Okay.
Which has to be understood from a deeper perspective. Okay.
Okay, fine. All right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, AKG. Thank you so much. And we can finish with Loka Samasta. Is there somebody here who can chant it? Please. Somebody.
Yeah.
There is we can do it ourselves.
Yeah.
No problem.
Minaji is offered, I think.
Yeah, I am here.
Okay, then can we finish with Loka Samasta, please? Thank you.
Yeah. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Sri Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, Krishnaphani ji.
Thank you. Thank you, KKG. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we meet next Tuesday, same time at 8:30. And I will call Ravi in advance so that we start sharp at 8:30. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you.